our creation stories have fire and talk about when we were putting fire on the land and how should we take care of Mother Earth. Indigenous people have lost that to colonialism.
It was taken from us.
Since the early 20th century, the United States has adopted policies to extinguish any and all wildland fires, which is now known as the era of fire suppression. And it effectively outlawed indigenous people's use of fire to manage landscapes and maintain wildlife habitats.
And they started killing people, hanging people, raping people. If you started fire, if you got in their way.
There was this thought process that all fire is bad fire.
And we now know that this actually made some of the wildfires we're seeing today worse. So now, more than a century later, some federal agencies are putting fire back on the land through what they call prescribed burns to help fight wildfires.
California would not be the way it is without Native American use of fire.
And they're even working with tribal communities to implement the very practices they were outlawed from doing all those years ago, cultural burns. But there are key differences between those agency burns and cultural burns. And while they are working together, Indigenous communities are on a larger journey of taking back their ancient practices.
When they removed fire, they didn't just remove fire, they removed a lot of our cultural ways. We're finding our way back to fire through that loss.
That cultural burn is not about fire. Cultural burn is about the community, keeping our traditions alive.
This is a story of how Indigenous peoples lost our right to burn in the United States and how we're reclaiming it.
Cultural burns are low-intensity burns that benefit the environment in several ways, not just with wildfire mitigation. That includes nourishing the soil, cleaning up forest floors for wildlife, and spurring the regrowth of native plant species.
Today we'll be having our cultural fire demonstrations to bring together community members, agency peoples, and people that are interested in learning about fire. I definitely feel like there's healing that's happening. It's putting me back in touch with my culture, something my ancestors did for millennia before it was taken away.
We're going to have a good time here, and we're also going to be sharing some traditional knowledge. We're burning to take care of the plants so that they can be...
Diana is one of our elder practitioners, cultural experts that's put a lot of work into stewarding these lands and waters.
Burning these plants to have them grow healthy.
There is a deep respect for people like Diana, elders that hold this knowledge, and doing my best to learn.
So, from there on out, we'll be burning. And we have our burn bosses for each individual area.
And so she's identified a handful of us that will be responsible for a particular area.
So happy. You gotta see the dog bane.
The dog bane.
Hello, yeah.
Like last year it was... So she wants to concentrate a burn today on the dog bane. And it's an incredibly important species for California Native peoples.
Yeah, because I remember Diana saying too, like she's seen taller dog bane, but the ones here had been small, but these are totally
They're gonna get there. You're gonna get there. It's okay, we love you.
So right now we're making some tule bundles to start and carry our fire. And it's significant because it's one of the plants historically that tribes use and continue to use for lots of different reasons: basketry, food, shelter, hunting. So
Indigenuity, Indigenous, genius.
do you have a bucket to put these in, Chrissy? Yeah. So these are our examples, and they'll be our little bundles that are ready to go. We'll put them in this basket.
We're going to give this a little try. We got one. Yep. So everything that we needed to start that fire was found right here in this area. This right here is a piece of elderberry, a piece of cottonwood, our cottonwood bundle, our nest. That's how you start a fire.
No lighter, no nothing. They did it. their own hands and energy. The future, what I hope to hold is that everybody will start their fires in this way someday, you know, without having to use fuel. So what I'm going to do is get a coal from here, and then I'm going to take it over to the spot we want to start over there, and take it over to the grassy area over here. So turn around to them.
As close to that prairie brush as you can. On the other side and right here too. Overall, people have very much misunderstood our knowledge systems and their places within modern times. I'm learning how there could be tension between how agencies engage and prescribe and controlled burning and how cultural fire practitioners are placing fire to the ground.
The difference in prescribed fire and cultural fire is the connection to the land, that living environment that cultural fire practitioners consider for their cultural fire. I learned how to burn in the scientific way. You know, this is the practice, this is the plan. It's about fuel reduction. Fire suppression has resulted in this really large fuel accumulation that then creates this hazardous condition for fires.
We have a common goal of trying to keep our forests clean, of trying to remove that fuel load where wildfire could come through.
Through recent legislation over the last 5 years, we've added laws on the books in Public Resource Code that allows and identifies what a cultural fire practitioner is and how that cultural fire practitioner is valued in association with prescribed fire, and it's equal. That traditional ecological knowledge that the cultural burner has is respected as equal for a prescribed fire practitioner.
You're going to burn this, right?
Yeah.
So with tribal communities, we really work in partnership in order to amplify the ability to get more fire on the landscape, the good fire.
That way it's not 100% agencies that are making the fire decisions. It's more of the practitioners themselves stewarding the homelands in the way ancestrally we've been taught to do.
Diana, your floor.
Thank you. Okay, that's all from coals that everybody seen.
We're going to keep going all the way down.
Yeah.
So we're not just healing the land ecologically and doing this good stewardship work that's eventually going to regenerate the plant communities. You know, we're also healing ourselves as people. You know, we always remember the work of our relatives and even our ancestors that paid the ultimate price so that we could have the freedom and the pride to be out here relearning our ways. When I think about how far we've come in reclaiming cultural fire and the good work that our elders and our practitioners have done, you know, to reclaim these practices, they kept our ways safe and they sang them home, you know.
Everything that we learned, everything that we are doing today is going to stay with you in memory. You know, and anytime you see a fire, you're going to probably think about this.
The day after the Leopold cultural fire demonstrations, and now I'm traveling down to Mariposa, California to join Chairman Ron Good of the North Fork Mono tribe and participate in his cultural burn.
And had a good trip? Hi, good morning. Oh, check you out. Right.
Chairman Ron Good's burn is less of a public demonstration and more of a cultural burn ceremony, where elders like him can share and practice their knowledge with other tribes and allies.
Hoping you can make it.
It's important for cultural fire practitioners to not just revitalize the practice, but also carry it forward.
Morning, everybody. Morning. Morning. Wow, nice crowd. Nice crowd. I want to be transparent with you in the sense that we have to look and say, you know, what happens down the road? What happens when I'm gone? Cultural burns about cultivating the culture. keeping things alive, keeping our language alive, keeping our songs alive, keeping our traditions alive, and how we need to look to the future if we want a future. Everybody's excited. Indigenous communities throughout the world feel the same, that when they're taking care of their lands, their landscapes, that what they're doing is taking care of the responsibilities that were given to them by Creator. And the fact of the matter is that prescribed fire, agency fire, doesn't work. Oh yeah, it takes fuel reduction, but that's all it does. It don't restore, it don't regenerate, it doesn't rejuvenate. In contrast, what we've been doing over the years is to train folks to be leaders, and now they're off in their own areas.
I've been burning with Ron for multiple decades.
He put fire on the land after 200 years. So this is what our goal was, is to, get people trained up so that they can take and do the leadership. It's pretty cool that, you're starting to see the different ones grow and what they can do.
We finally made it. Oh, hey!
Oh man,
How's it going?
you guys finally came.
We made it just in time for lunch.
They can use help here.
Up here with Christina.
We call it seventh generation thinking. We make decisions based off of the world we want to see created for our younger ones.
And are we going to have a future? That comes back to the sovereignty of the land. Are we actually in a free America? Did somebody call you in?
Yeah. Yeah, we just had a neighbor concerned.
Well, I have a permit already.
Okay.
I get a permit every time. I'm Ron Good.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
All right. What kind of permit do you guys get? Is that through the air?
With cultural burns, we typically hold them in partnership with other entities, either private landowners or public lands. And a lot of that we have to get certain permits and we have to follow certain protocols.
You want to see it?
Yeah, sure.
No problem. They should have been well notified.
So one of the barriers that we recognize in cultural burning is that there's a lot of regulation around burning, and rightfully so. We don't want to have people burning when there's a clear and present danger for that fire to become a catastrophic wildfire.
How long are you guys going to be doing this burn?
Through Sunday.
Through Sunday?
It was an interesting clashing of worlds, to feel as though we can have cultural burn demonstrations more so, but then to have, maybe people cautious about it or indifferent feelings about cultural burning and prescribed burning.
All right.
Yeah.
You guys be safe.
Oh yeah, we're fine.
All right, have a good day.
Okay.
I think we're all working towards the day we can exercise true sovereignty and be able to hold cultural burn demonstrations on our own terms. What are your thoughts?
You don't want to know. My responsibility to fire and water and the land. That's our responsibility. But do they take it seriously? Do the agencies take it seriously?
This is our ember, this is our beginning.
One.
I'm stopping the recording.
Next.
Alright,
another
you
one.
two, you guys are good to go to the far corner.
It's happy. It's happy to be burned. And put fire back on the land. This is what we want,
I think this is beautiful because we understand the ecological response that the fire will bring.
You come back in February or March, and you're going to be amazed. And you will see the flowers that will come back. What we took out was the tarweed, which was dominant, so it don't allow those flowers to come back. What did Creator give us as our responsibility? The land, the water, the fire, the wind, the culture. But how do you develop that? For me, it's all of you.
I've been on this cultural fire journey with the elders and practitioners in California that have been so giving of their time and their knowledge. So there's been an evolution or just a change in roles.
So we wouldn't mind like circling up, that way we can see one another. And
I moved from California in the West to now Kansas, the Midwest, to take a job as an assistant professor at the University of Kansas. It was important for me to bring fire stewardship to this new place because fire belonged here too. You wouldn't necessarily know it looking around, but this is a significant place. This place is also the home to where I went to school as an undergraduate, Haskell Indian Nations University, and Haskell is unique in that it was also established as a boarding school. One of the places that was purposely built to steal and take away our children and to put them there and to assimilate them into Western culture, removing every piece of our identity that made us us. Learning about the history of fire removal, how it was very much related to Indigenous people's removal of these homelands. You know, we're not supposed to be here today. We're literally not supposed to be here. But here we are. We may not know that part of our history because it's been so fragmented through colonization and industrialization. What we're doing here today is picking up those pieces that were left for us by our relatives and rebuilding the future that we want to see.
And I'm very happy to have Melinda because she is like the goddess of fire. Growing up, I got to see my grandpa do little fire burns in our backyard just to get away some pesky weeds. And I always thought it was pretty cool. Okay, this is my very first burn, and I feel very great. It's a good rush. I almost feel like it's a calling for me to learn more about fire and to bring it back and bring those stewarding practices back to our people.
We each have a role in learning these lessons of our homelands and learning our place within our cultural cycles. It has taken all of those iterations of colonization, you know, the hurt and the trauma and the removal to find our way back to culture, you know, to find our way back to fire, but also the responsibilities that come along with it.
California would not be the way it is without Native American use of fire.
You know, my whole life has been to advance Native America, but I've probably switched gears to a higher gear, and now it's indigenous world and indigenous, you know, the planet. What can we do to save the planet? How can we get all of us working together? The more that we work together, the stronger we become.
Maybe I dream of a day where I don't have to reconnect as much, find my way back. You know, I won't have to find my way if I know what the way is.